Greetings and salutations everyone, I'm Ekamac, this is Limbus Company. In the last episode we tackled the Doomsday Calendar. In this episode, our final third Luxcavation episode, at least for the current week, is Ebony Queen's Apple. Wrath is kind of an interesting element. I would say that similar to Lust and Envy, it's really easy to build a team around Wrath. Helped a lot by recent Ego giving us some very potent Wrath abilities. So let's take it from the top. We're bringing back Liu Ishmael. Even though Wrath isn't her most common skill, she can easily get a Wrath chain going by swapping to her defensive skill. But more importantly are her ego. She has Capote, which we've shown before has very powerful rolls. But unlike before, this is important. Wrath damage up to all allies. If it corrodes, then it also gives them Wrath fragility, so don't do that. But over here we have Ardor Blossom Star, a 19 plus 22. On head's hit it raises the stagger threshold, on hit it inflicts burn by the Wrath resonance, so at most we can get 5, and on her head's hit, inflict 3 burn on 3 random enemies. Trust me, I've seen this stagger threshold actually help out a lot. So she's here to give us some nice ego. We have Blade Lineage Sang again. Heal turn is actually going to be handy here because it's Wrath damage, but also his naturally high coin flips is going to be important for this fight. In terms of ego, we probably aren't going to see Crow's Eye View get any use, but he does have 4th Match Flame. Usually he's just your sloth ego mule, but for here, I'd rather have an attack that might be useful. 5 is a very hard number to reach, but it is there. Now we have someone new. Encore Grobhammer Mersault. This guy is a tank. Unfortunately, he kind of has a bad skill 1, but this is going to be our only source of sloth resources, and we need at least 1 to get a lot of the ego going. You Are Cleansed of Sin is very good, but I want to draw special attention to his defense skill. Foolishness, a negative coin 15 to 10. Combat Start, gain 1 protection. At less than 50% HP, final power plus 2. We aren't going to see that 50% HP thing kick in, but I want to point out that it's combat start, not on use. So whenever we decide to use his counter skill, he's going to be taking less damage from the get-go. Unlike Rodian's counter skill all that time back, where the protection only kicked in after she took the hit. And in terms of ego, I want to draw attention to a couple of things. First of all, Chain of Others gives him Endure to Pride, but Fatal to Gluttony. Those are important skills for these things. The skill itself, I don't think we're going to see because I believe the team lacks Gloom. In terms of his level 2, his Teth ego, we actually have both of his options are actually quite nice. Regret is a potent Wrath. If we achieve Absolute Resonance, then it gets extra Tremor count, but it gets Tremor count anyway, and it bursts Tremor. Why is this important? It's because he can, although nobody in the fight can inflict Tremor, I believe it is possible to rack up a few natural tremor with his other ego. Capote, yeah. Granted, burn count is equally difficult to get leveled up in this fight, so I don't know why I was talking about that. But yeah, 20 plus 15. This is much stronger than Ishmael's capote. The counterpoint is that she has a bit more range at up tie 4. But anyway, gain haste, wrath power up, and blunt power up. So you probably aren't going to use this back to back, but were you able to, then it would absolutely wreck someone's face in. Anyway, the other important thing here is the passive. This unit's leftmost skill on the dashboard loses base power and gains 2 coin power. At the start of the turn, if at -4 speed, gain blunt power up. Keep in mind that the problem he's having right now is coin power, so you could actually fix that quite nicely. It's absolutely going to ruin his defense skill there, but But just for the record, Screw Loose Wallop. Where does it say? Oh, right, it's here. Gaining haste by the effects count is actually nice, and I think that it is possible to get the resources for this at least. Yeah, we don't have any gloom or gluttony in this team. Anyway, we're also getting a return from Chef de Cuisine Ryoshu. Mainly for her having perfect cuts here. This wrath skill. She does have 4th match flame, but 4 wrath, 2 pride isn't that bad a price to pay. And since we have Ishmael, it might actually be possible to get that skill power +2. She also has some very decent power rolls, even if they aren't going to be full damage because of the boss's resistances. 3 plus 5 for 3 coins, 3 plus 3 for 4 coins. We can get nice numbers going. Oh yeah, and a cheap Wrath Lust combo there. And finally, we have a newcomer, Donri Sote, Shi Association South Section 5 Director. Donnie's trick here is speed, where she's trying to get a whole bunch of haste so she can have enough speed to get the attack bonus for Overbreathe here. Here's the problem. To naturally get it, she needs to get 4 and roll max on her speed. It's quite difficult to do. Fortunately, she does have this passive where when we achieve Wrath Resonance, she gets a bonus to haste. The downside is that because we're capped at 5 skill slots for this fight, it's very difficult for her to get that. So basically, everyone else needs to use the Wrath skill, and she needs to use her skill to get that second hit. That gives her +4 haste. If she does make it below 50% HP somehow, then it gets a lot easier because we get 4 haste plus 7. So that's 7 haste. That is enough for her to get the full speed boost. But getting her below 50% HP is very dangerous and difficult. Now, I do want to draw attention to one more thing. The majority of this team is weak to Pierce. So, Fatal, 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 Fatal. Mersault is the only one that's ineffective to Pierce. There are certainly other characters that can do the job. For example, Lobby Go Regret, which is now no longer for availability, you do have a Wrath nuke here. The problem is Fatal. Another well-purchased Night ID, Hong Lu is actually in a nice spot because he's ineffective to pierce. He has a low but potent skill 1 in Wrath. And he isn't weak to Gluttony or Pride. Those are nice. We have to talk about the Arcor Heathcliff. So technically he's one of the best damage in the game. He even has his Wrath skill where it's nice and useful. The problem I have is that he is Envy, but also Gluttony, and the thing is, Gluttony isn't as useful to this team as a lot of the other things that we can have. There's just nowhere that I want to put him. He also lacks a Wrath ego. And yeah, Rodian is just ineffective here, but she does have counter. You are Pierce weak, but you do have common Wrath. The thing is, Wrath is certainly common element, but it's kind of hard for me to find good Wrath ego. Which is why we've got the group that we do, because they all have Wrath ego in them. Except for Donnie over here, but we're ignoring that. So yeah, let's check this fight out, because it is actually kind of interesting now that I've done some behind the scenes research. So, 5 skill slots. I think this is the... No, we have seen other abnormalities with 5 skill slots, but this one has interesting mechanics behind it. Also take note, attack power up, attack skill final power plus 4. The fruit is destructible. After being destroyed, it will recover. But it will always get 1 skill slot and use Vein Fruit. If we destroy it, all body parts gain 2 fragile. Which is nice. Yeah. The right stem, the left stem, and the roots are where the attacks come from. We have Pale Stem, which is a 2+7, so we can beat it if it rolls tails. If it rolls heads, we need to roll heads. I can't think of any skills that have a base power of 9. Distrust is going to be used infrequently. This is a warm-up skill. Anything we clash against this, it has a good chance of evading. Anything we have a clash against this has a good chance of winning. Shared Pain is an AoE. This isn't used very often, but when it does, we're going to know about it. And finally, Root Spike. 4+5. On a head's hit, it inflicts a lot of bleed. Now here's the thing. The roots have an attack power of 4. The roots have an attack power of 4 and will only use Root Spike. At the start of turn, inflict 1 bind on all enemies. This lasts until the roots have been broken. The roots gain 2 attack power up for each intact arm. So let's look at Root Spike again. This has a base power of 8 and a max power of 13. It is very hard to beat this attack. And of course, they're aiming it on Yi Seng, who is not resistant. This is the reason why I bring Mersault. Because he, even if he can't beat Root Spike, he can flip over to his defensive skill. With ineffective versus Pride and a resistance... with a resistance to Pride and ineffective to Pierce, this is going to do scratch damage to him, giving him the rest of the party plenty of time to tear the arms off. But because everyone is bound, it can be very hard to get this root spike aimed at the people who can beat it. We're favored, so it just has to be us flipping tails and them flipping heads. This isn't likely to win, but that's okay. This guy's a tank. We just need to get at least one sloth resource used in the near future.
악인들을 해치우세나!
Ooh, and there's the unlucky roll. The floor's vines are a hassle. Maybe there'll be a chance to get rid of them. So here's the problem with the body parts. There are 3 body parts. One of them each turn will get an extra attack. And every now and then you get extremely lucky, you get extremely unlucky, and it's the roots. So, we're going to just have to pray that she gets the heads coin there because there's nothing else she can rely on. Yeah. So, Ryoshu is at 0 SP. Her best chance of not getting impaled on that spike is with their skill 2. Maybe we can finish off the fruit this turn. Bad luck! The thing about Mersault's identities is that most of them are very slow. So Screw Loose Wallop is actually kind of handy. But you wouldn't be able to get Screw Loose Wallop off by this point. A heart torn into 1,000 pieces must be kept from all eyes. Thus it burrowed into the ground and tangled itself. Yet someone has to pull up these thorny roots, as there is no wound that can remain unearthed. The sinners gave each other's looks. Being coiled in piercing sharp pain was something to avoid even in one's dreams. The dry earth must be upturned. Which sinner was up to the task? The thing is, it is impossible for anyone to lose this skill check. Some sinners do have preferred affinities that will increase the threshold, but even then they're more than capable of doing it, so this should be reasonable as long as the plan behind it isn't total flotsam. Does it really have to be me when the others are right there? Fear thou not, this is easily within my capabilities. I believe I am with a fair chance of success. It's doable. Mersault walked with shaky steps. With bare hands they dug up the roots. In their hands were the doubts of others. The sinner realized that while the injury may heal, distrust may take deep root within their heart. The effect of entangling roots expired. For the one who grips had ordered me to succeed. Okay, this has to break the fruit. I'd be very disappointed if it didn't. We can now afford ego.
무슨 맛일까? 자, 이쪽입니다.
So then, the fruit is broken on this turn, it'll refresh next turn. If the fruit gets broken once and then reduced to below 50%, then it'll trigger another skill check. But the thing is, usually you just end up overkilling it without actually having that chance for the point, so not really something to worry about. So, absolute wrath resonance when we're using regret. That's going to hurt. Oh, and with the fragile from the broken fruit too. And the wrath damage up, right, I forgot about that too. You have run out of arms, good man. I guess you have a somewhat decent chance there, but there's also a chance that you're gonna get your face stuck. But nope, Donnie is fine. So again, everyone but Mersault is weak to Pierce in this fight, so whenever they lose, there's a good chance of it really hurting. But that said, Mersault is resistant to the pride side of the attacks. But because he's fatal to Gluttony, he's actually taking neutral damage from everything else she has. That said, I think it's still worth it because if he flips the defensive coin, then it doesn't matter what they roll. He is going to hit them back with wrath damage. So having weak skills like drive here doesn't really matter to him. It's figuring out how to weave in your skill 1 safely that does the trick. So we have a 10 to 14 here. I wonder if we can make that better. $11 to 15. There is actually a good chance of winning this clash here. Do not underestimate Blade Lineage Yi saying when you uptie him. I guess it's also worth pointing out that Distrust, the Distrust skill, is actually used pretty infrequently. So take advantage while you can. Try to get that lined up against people that will really need the SP. So then, whenever you use a counter skill, it tells you how much damage the opponent will deal and how much damage you'll deal in retaliation. So look at that. At best, you can deal 13 damage to me, whereas I'm going to be clocking her with a 29 if I flip heads, a 41 if I flip tails. It is a fantastic matchup.
죄를 새겨주겠어.
Oh, bad luck.
뭐가 찬 저항일 뿐이다.
Even flipping a tails.
나의 정의에는 결과가 있었어.
Bad pun. Very bad unintentional pun. So the roots don't get to act at all this turn because, yes, that tails flip was very strong. And frankly, he shouldn't have gotten it because he's in positive SP at the moment.
무슨 맛일까?
So you are aiming 2 Distrust and 1... Wait, you're aiming Distrust and 2 Root Spikes at me. I think that's a good time to use the defense skill. Actually, let's show a 4th match flame, why not? So Ryoshu is actually the one that takes the most damage here because she's failed to Gluttony and to PS. Nobody else has that problem. It's a good thing that she has half her skills, 2 skill 2, 1 skill 3, have a decent chance of beating the Root Spike
예술의 방울경이지.
Sadly, counter only triggers once. He wouldn't have been able to get a second counter off from the second root spike hitting him, but because he staggered the body part, it doesn't matter. I doubt it's going to last long enough, but if it does, we get to show off Capote as well. Yeah, that damage boost for missing HP gets out of hand very quickly.
무슨 맛일까?
낭자오.
There's no kill like overkill.
정지. 벗어날 수 없다.
But yeah, that's the Ebony Stem Queen Luxcavation.
이 정도면 조기 소진 걱정은 안 해도 되겠는걸.
Next season they're supposed to be releasing a new line of Luxcavations, now for the new level cap of 40, so struggles are going to start happening again. I'll see what happens then, whether I'll release a new branch of videos for that though. But yeah, until next time guys, take care. I'll see you all around. I do know about the win rate and damage buttons, but why would I put so much time into the game just to have the game play itself for me? Might as well get engaged with it and try to tactically sort out all these fights that you have to do 12 times a month minimum.